Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to pull out the sharpest insights from, well, a whole mountain of information.
That's the plan.
Today, we're looking at John D. Rockefeller. But maybe not just the oil tycoon everyone thinks of.
Right. We're digging into Rockefeller as almost a master marketer, someone who really understood how to shape markets.
Exactly. And his strategies, surprisingly, they still echo today. We've got lessons here.
We really do. You've gone through a lot of sources tracing his path through, what, 7 key stages?
7 stages, and our aim is to pull out those marketing-like skills he used at every step as Standard Oil grew.
It's about seeing how he built this, dominant business and this lasting legacy.
So if you're interested in business strategy, how industries get shaped, or just building something that lasts, this is for you. Expect some real insights.
Definitely. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it, starting right at the very beginning. Young Rockefeller.
Yeah, stage 1, even before the oil, when he was just looking for his first job. You see the strategy already.
Absolutely. He wasn't just sending resumes everywhere. He was marketing himself, even at 16. 3 things really stand out. First, his approach was super targeted.
He made a list, right? Specific firms.
Big ones. Reputable. High credit ratings. He wasn't just looking for a job.
No. He was thinking ahead, positioning himself to learn, to get the right kind of knowledge capital. He was investing in his future self.
Yeah. That makes sense. And the second thing, his presentation.
Oh, yeah. Always sharp. Dark suit, shaved, shoes shined, every single time.
He understood that first impression thing. It matters. Still does, right?
Totally. And the third part was just relentlessness.
He treated it like a full-time job. Full days pounding the pavement.
Kept going back even after getting rejected. Didn't let it phase him like a sales effort, but the product was himself.
And it worked. He landed that assistant bookkeeper job. Tough market, too.
It was crucial, that first step, that foothold in the business world.
And you can see how that process forged his discipline, that persistence stuck with him.
Definitely. So the lessons for entrepreneurs today. First, target your market. Focus right. Don't waste energy.
Know who you're trying to reach, even if it's your first boss, like market segmentation, but for yourself.
Exactly. Second, presentation counts. How you show up, how you package your offer, whatever it is.
Big impact.
And third,
treat chasing opportunities like it is your job. Put in the time, the effort, be consistent. That's how he got started.
Okay, so he's in, got the job, but he quickly moves on to building his own thing. And the focus shifts, right?
It does, to the foundations. Quality. Cost control. This is 1863, his Cleveland refinery.
A new industry, kind of Wild West-ish back then, but he wanted to set a standard.
Which brings us to the name, Standard Oil. It wasn't accidental.
No way. It was a brand statement from the get-go. In a market where quality was all over the place, standard meant reliable, trustworthy.
It's brilliant branding, really. Communicating value immediately.
Yeah.
And then there was his obsession with detail.
Legendary, right? Checking tiny invoice errors. Pennies. Yeah, he had a real passion for detail, apparently. And it wasn't just accounting. It was everywhere.
Like driving down costs, even tiny ones.
The solder drops story. Reducing the drops of solder used on each oil can seems minuscule.
But times millions of cans.
Exactly. The savings become enormous. It shows how micro-efficiencies build up. That's a competitive edge right there.
A cost structure others just couldn't match easily.
And controlling costs like that meant they could offer better prices.
Which is great marketing in itself. So, the benefits were clear. Brand trust from the name and the quality focus.
Huge profitability boost from those tiny efficiencies.
And the ability to compete on price. Powerful combination.
So the lessons here. First, your operations. They're part of your marketing. Quality, efficiency, they build your rep, let you price competitively.
Makes sense. Second, don't ignore the small stuff.
Right. Little savings add up. Big time. Attention to detail pays off.
And third, that name again. Choose it carefully. Make it mean something. Like standard meant reliability.
Okay, so foundation laid, quality, efficiency. What's next? Consolidation. Big time.
This is where Standard Oil really takes off. 1870, Standard Oil Company of Ohio is formed, and they move fast.
Super fast. Grabbing market share through integration and using their size.
And this is where some of the, let's say, more controversial stuff starts happening, but the marketing skill is there in how they controlled the market.
Well, one key thing was integration. Both kinds. Vertical and horizontal.
Meaning?
They bought up rivals, that's horizontal. But they also bought or built pipelines, distribution, everything needed to get oil from the ground to the length that's vertical.
Controlling the whole chain, why was that so powerful?
Gives you massive control over costs, obviously, and supply. You're not relying on others as much. You dictate terms.
Okay. And the second skill, using their size, their volume.
The railroad rebates. This was huge. Because Standard Oil shipped so much oil, they could demand or negotiate really big discounts from the railroads.
Which lowers their costs again, way below competitors. That's leverage.
Massive leverage. It's using scale as a weapon almost. And third was just relentlessly chasing economies of scale in everything.
Like making their own barrels, finding uses for byproducts others threw away.
Exactly. Doing it all in-house, super efficiently, finding value everywhere.
Yeah.
It just drove their costs down further and further. For instance, making barrels wasn't just cheaper per barrel.
It also meant they controlled supply and quality of something essential. Smart.
Very. The result, near total market dominance.
Yeah.
Huge cost advantages, and the power to pretty much set the rules for the whole industry.
So, lessons for today. First, understand your supply chain. Control what you can. It hits your cost, your market position.
Absolutely. Second, scale does matter. It gives you efficiency, negotiating power.
And third, being the low-cost leader is a powerful advantage. We have to acknowledge the methods were sometimes rough.
Right. We're just reporting on the strategy here, not endorsing everything. But that costs leadership.
Yeah.
It lets you compete aggressively.
Okay, fast forward to the 1880s. Standard Oil is basically a monopoly, operating as the Standard Oil Trust. Now, the challenge changes, doesn't it?
It really does. By 82, they control most of the U.S. oil infrastructure. That kind of power. It draws a lot of heat, public scrutiny, criticism.
So Rockefeller needed a different kind of marketing, more like public image management or maybe crisis management.
Exactly. And his approach was, well, pretty unique. First, he cultivated this intense poise, reserve.
The sphinx-like demeanor people talked about, staying calm under pressure.
Projecting total control, even when things were chaotic. It gave him this aura of authority.
Interesting. And the second tactic, clamming up with the press.
Pretty much. He almost never gave interviews. Believed familiarity bred contempt. That's not exactly standard PR today, is it?
Definitely not. Why do that? Seems counterintuitive.
Well, the thinking was it kept a certain mystique. It controlled the narrative by limiting access, and crucially, it stopped him from accidentally spilling secrets or saying something that could be twisted.
Kept his cards close to his chest.
Right. And third, he tended to just ignore criticism from people he thought didn't really understand the business, people without skin in the game, as he saw it.
Filtered out the noise, basically. Stayed focused on his own game plan.
So the benefits were maintaining that authority, frustrating opponents who couldn't get a rise out of him, and protecting sensitive info.
Lessons from that phase? First, self-control is power. Staying cool projects, strength.
True. Second, maybe pick your battles. You don't have to respond to everything. Silence can be strategic.
Good point. And third, control the narrative, sometimes by controlling who gets to talk to you. Protect your message.
Okay, so he's mastered the U.S. market, managed the scrutiny. What's next? Looking outward.
Global expansion. Standard Oil realized U.S. production was starting to outpace what Americans could use.
So they needed new markets. And they got very strategic about finding and developing them. This required a whole new set of international marketing skills.
And they're good at spotting opportunities, right? Like in China.
Absolutely. Huge population, using mostly vegetable oils for lamps. They saw the potential to switch them to kerosene. Cleaner, better light.
That's proactive market creation on a massive scale, identifying a need and figuring out how to fill it.
And they didn't just push Standard Oil kerosene. They adapted. Localized branding.
Ah, the Mei Fu name.
Exactly. Adopting a Chinese name for the brand makes it feel less foreign, more accessible, builds trust.
Right.
Why is that so vital, that localization?
Well, it shows respect for the culture, right? Makes the product feel like it belongs there, not just something pushed on them from outside. Connects better.
Smart. And the third really clever thing they did, they didn't just sell the fuel.
They sold the lamps too, or gave them away.
Sold them very cheaply. The Mei Fu tin lamps. Because how else are people going to use the kerosene? They removed a huge barrier to adoption.
That's thinking about the whole customer experience, the whole ecosystem. Brilliant.
And the results were staggering. China became their biggest market in Asia. They literally created demand, built a massive global network.
Lessons for global entrepreneurs. First, look beyond your home turf. Huge opportunities out there.
Definitely. Second, adapt. Localize your brand. Understand the culture, the habits. It's critical.
And third, make it easy for people to use your product. Remove those barriers. Sometimes you need to provide the tools, like the lamps.
Okay, so global dominance achieved. But then comes a major shift. The trust gets broken up in 1911 by the Supreme Court.
Right. And Rockefeller himself had already stepped back from the day-to-day stuff. His focus changes again, dramatically.
Towards philanthropy. But not just writing checks. It was large-scale strategic giving, inspired partly by Andrew Carnegie's ideas.
So deploying his wealth as strategically as he built it, how is his philanthropic marketing different?
Well, first he focused on root causes, using science, technology, not just patching problems, but trying to solve them fundamentally, like funding medical research to wipe out diseases.
We're supporting universities for long-term knowledge creation.
Exactly. Which leads to the second point, institution building. He didn't just fund projects, he funded massive, enduring organizations. University of Chicago, the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research.
No, Rockefeller University. Places still making huge impacts today. These were investments, not just donations.
Long-term systemic change investments. And the third thing, which is kind of interesting, his preference for humility, wanting to be a silent partner.
Yeah, often didn't want buildings named after him. Seems odd, given how famous the name became through these institutions anyway.
It is a bit paradoxical, but maybe focusing on the work rather than the credit actually built a stronger, more positive legacy in the long run. People respected the impact itself.
So the benefits: lasting social impact, tackling big problems systematically, and gradually shaping a more positive public perception over decades.
Lessons there. First, wealth can fuel a bigger purpose. Business success can enable massive social good.
Second, be strategic in giving. Focus on root causes, build capacity, maximize the impact.
And third, sometimes the impact speaks louder than the promotion. Let the work build the legacy.
Which brings us almost to the present day. That legacy, the Rockefeller name, it's still incredibly active in philanthropy.
Very much so. Through the Rockefeller Foundation, started in 1913, and other related groups like the David Rockefeller Fund. And they've continued to evolve how they operate.
How so? How is philanthropy marketed or leveraged now?
Well, one clear sign is how they use the brand, the name recognition. They strategically leverage Rockefeller to draw attention to huge issues today: climate change, criminal justice reform.
Using the spotlight that comes with the name to push important conversations forward.
Exactly. Second, they're much more collaborative now. They work really closely with their grantees, co-designing strategies. It's not just handing over money.
More of a partnership model, more hands-on. Sounds more effective, potentially.
It often is. More innovative solutions can come out of that. And maybe the most striking thing, the self-examination, transparency.
You mean acknowledging the complicated history, the origins of the wealth?
Yes. They've openly criticized things connected to the past, like ExxonMobil on climate, or push for drug law reforms that challenge old ways of thinking. Why is that transparency so important now?
Well, I guess it builds trust, right? Shows they're not hiding from the past, that they're engaged with today's values. Keeps them relevant, credible.
Precisely. The benefits are clear. They accelerate progress by using their name and network. They achieve deeper impact through that active collaboration. And they maintain relevance by honestly grappling with history and current issues.
So the final lessons, looking at this long arc. First, your name, your reputation, it's an asset. You can use it for good, way beyond just business.
Absolutely. Second, getting involved, partnering deeply. That drives more impact than just passive funding.
And finally, own your history, the good and the bad. Being transparent builds trust for the future.
So wrapping up this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's quite a journey, isn't it? From that determined kid looking for a job,
to the architect of a global giant, to a pioneer in strategic philanthropy, and now this evolving legacy. He showed so many kinds of marketing skills.
Persistence, quality focus, strategic consolidation, controlled communication, global vision, philanthropy as influence.
Yeah.
It's a really diverse skill set.
Which leaves us with a thought for you listening in. We've seen all these different skills Rockefeller used. Where in your own world, maybe in unexpected places, could you apply some of these principles?
Yeah, how might you market your ideas, your projects, even yourself in new ways? And how do you think about the legacy you're building? How might that evolve over time?
Definitely something to think about. We really encourage you to dig deeper if this sparked your interest, the history of Standard Oil, how philanthropy has changed, those specific strategies.
There's so much more there. Consider this just scratching the surface.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to pull out the sharpest insights from, well, a whole mountain of information.
That's the plan.
Today, we're looking at John D. Rockefeller. But maybe not just the oil tycoon everyone thinks of.
Right. We're digging into Rockefeller as uh, almost a master marketer, someone who really understood how to shape markets.
Exactly. And his strategies, surprisingly, they still echo today. We've got lessons here.
We really do. You've gone through a lot of sources tracing his path through, what, 7 key stages?
7 stages, and our aim is to pull out those marketing-like skills he used at every step as Standard Oil grew.
It's about seeing how he built this, dominant business and this lasting legacy.
So if you're interested in business strategy, how industries get shaped, or just building something that lasts, this is for you. Expect some real insights.
Definitely. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it, starting right at the very beginning. Young Rockefeller.
Yeah, stage 1, even before the oil, when he was just looking for his first job. You see the strategy already.
Absolutely. He wasn't just sending resumes everywhere. He was marketing himself, even at 16. 3 things really stand out. First, his approach was super targeted.
He made a list, right? Specific firms.
Big ones. Reputable. High credit ratings. He wasn't just looking for a job.
No. He was thinking ahead, positioning himself to learn, to get the right kind of knowledge capital. He was investing in his future self.
Yeah,
You know?
that makes sense. And the second thing, his presentation.
Oh, yeah. Always sharp. Dark suit, shaved, shoes shined, every single time.
He understood that first impression thing. It matters. Still does, right?
Totally. And the third part was just relentlessness.
He treated it like a full-time job. Full days pounding the pavement.
Kept going back even after getting rejected. Didn't let it phase him like a sales effort, but the product was himself.
And it worked. He landed that assistant bookkeeper job.